Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Tyler Coates with alphanalysis.io, and I am here to bring in my latest analysis, latest analysis about Bitcoin. While I'm in the middle of trying to figure out where my screens are, I am streaming from my laptop today because the quality has been down from my desktop, and I haven't quite been able to figure it out. So forgive me here as I try to find the right screens. Okay, here we go. All right. Here I am, Tyler Coates. Pleasure to see everybody tonight. This afternoon, this morning, wherever you may happen to be in the world, I am excited to dig into some charts much sooner than yesterday. Yesterday, we took some time to kind of dive into some of the, just stuff that's been happening in my life and some of the motivation for me resuming the daily streaming. And today I feel like there isn't a whole lot to catch up on. I was hoping to record a video before going live to cover some of the finer details about the indicator that I shared yesterday, and wasn't able to get to that, but it's something that maybe it'll be good for people to have a little bit of time to think about themselves in terms of, I outlined in yesterday's stream, I think an indicator that will be very for some time to come, at least for me. And if you are going to take some time to really step back and give it some thought yourself about, how am I going to trade this thing? Versus me just telling you how I trade it myself, that could end up being very beneficial for everybody involved, at least as long as you're willing to share anything you come across with me. Anyways, you can send me some DMs. I'll keep it all private. So coming to you from a bit of a new angle today, I did change the send it flag because I feel like that's a pretty important background for this stream here moving forward. But outside of that, I'm hoping that the quality will be better. Did some test streams earlier, and it seemed like this is going to be the best way to go. So that will be, I guess, remaining to be seen, as we all know how these things tend to work. So I am going to be diving into some charts here. I still lost my glasses and been calling around all day to figure out where in the heck they may be. Nope, still nothing. So that could be a bit of a setback, but we'll have to go with what God gave us for today. And before getting into some charts, I'll do my best to just kind of share a little bit else, which today what we got is the view. If you want to see live a day in my life, see what I see out of my eyes every day, this is pretty much what you got. And it's a pretty sweet view, if you ask me. Here are a couple of the monitors. This will be the laptop that I'm streaming from today. We got the light on there as we're getting ready to go, and in the background we see that we just got some snow. I've been shoveling my tail off recently, and 'tis the life. And both of these are touch screens, which is actually pretty darn sweet. At first, it may seem like you may not use the touch screens, but when you really get to moving on them, I would recommend trying out a touchscreen. And the attached monitor that has the touchscreen capability isn't too much more. So this is a quick little view of a day, basically a day in the life of Tyler. If you take a very close look to the chart, you maybe we'll get a little bit of a spoiler alert for the conclusion of where my analysis will be going. Okie dokie. Let's send. trading view chart. Hopefully that isn't too much to ask for. It is. All right. 1 second. Oh, and shout outs. I haven't checked the chat yet today, but I will do my best to keep an eye on that. I am trying to find somebody to help me out with that, in terms of anybody that's been watching the show for a while maybe would remember Daisy, who was certainly, easy on the eye and also easy to talk to and very good at keeping an eye on the chat as well. And potentially somebody like that would be a benefit to the daily stream. Who knows? We'll see. I'm trying to do what I can, but you never know. So shout outs to Kimo Zabi. Thank you very much for the first tip of the Alpha Analysis live stream. You are the man, and didn't even ask any questions or nothing like that. I just said I felt like I should be paying something for this, so that was really cool to get that appreciation. So thank you. Shout out to Storm UK, aka Mike. He was helping, took a good amount of time helping me to figure out how I could do a higher quality stream today, and weren't necessarily able to figure out anything on the Mac. But I'll tell you what, I'm moving over to. I'm moving away from Mac. Mac is a freaking cult. I'll tell you what. I've been in it ever since they released the iPhone, and it is very, very hard to get away from using Mac. I'm transitioning, and as I've started transitioning, I get the first laptop to get the feel, get used to it, so I don't just get immediately upset about everything that happens. As I've been transitioning, I've really been realizing that this is going to be where it's at for the future. Think about what has Mac done since Wozniak and Jobs, outside of give us new plugs and charge us more for. They've made a good camera. They've made a very good camera, but I don't think that they are really working as hard to innovate as they are to just simply make money. And therefore, when if I'm really thinking about investing for the long term, I don't really look at what it's done, the stock over the last few months. I look at what the company's done. And I drank the Kool-Aid from Mac a very long time ago, and I'm going to be the very first to tell you that, no, definitely not the first, but I'm ready to admit that I'm wrong, and I am now getting the antidote, and I'm very happy about it. Okie dokie. So let's, I guess, go ahead and start out with the spoiler alert, since that's where the chart was already pulled up to. So my target right now is 58.5, and that is due to this. Let me see here. I actually need to try sharing the other monitor. That one's just a little bit too small. So give me 1 second here, and thank you for the patience. Let's try this one. All right, yes, much better. All right. I'm liking what I'm seeing here. We have been doing a few things. Let's zoom in as much as we can. Hopefully the quality is looking good. I'm not, oh yeah, that's why it wasn't looking right. Okie dokie. Really liking what we're seeing here out of the persistent support. First, we might be looking at something like that for sure. And trend lines are as they are. And now I would be doing something like this, which is kind of like Fippo's talked about on the Honest Analyst stream. Just, like what is the idea of the pattern? Like what's going on here? Is this is an ascending triangle, is it bullish? Well, why is it bullish? Like, what's the deal? And for me, this is something that, you know, we're getting some strong support that is moving up. And while, yes, at first I would be looking at it here, moving up, and then breaking out and turning into support, this is where that close would be where I targeted 58.5 was due to this close. Sorry, this close here. And then what happened was, yeah, you took out this low, but you certainly held this low, and you got a very strong reaction off of it, you know, which is pretty clear now. And just because you were able to take out this low, does that negate the idea of the ascending triangle? I certainly think not, when you wick below, close above, and then quickly reclaim this area as support. So a normal, or, you know, just the rules for an ascending triangle are going to be measuring this high to this low, and then connecting to the breakout. You can use basically either one because it's horizontal, and that would give you 52.5 to 52.6. But I'm more looking at it as a flag, where you know, flags can happen in a handful of ways, where you do the something like that, where you get the pennant formation, and then the flag is kind of more of the pullback, whereas this would be the most bullish option, where you get the run up, and then you get the correction, but it just keeps eking higher. Maybe it's a distribution type of situation, for sure. That could be the case. But when I'm looking at like flagging patterns, I am looking at them in terms of what's under the hood. And what's under the hood is that you get a big move, and then you need to kind of cool down and revert to the mean. And you can revert to the mean by pulling back and into it, or consolidating sideways, or just like trying to consolidate sideways, but instead of doing that, kind of eking upwards. That being said, we are looking at quite an interesting candle, as we did for the very first time trade above $50,000 for one Bitcoin. First time in history, all-time high. That's pretty special. But it may not feel that way if it immediately pulls back down and below. So here's the question. We've got an hour until the close. You know, what's going to happen? And if we have this wick right here, like we see, but we close above this high, anywhere above, like basically where we're at exactly right now, 48,985, anywhere above yesterday's high and this high from 212.21 will be a bullish close for me, regardless of this wick. A close above this high would be the most bullish possibility for me. So that would be the 14th high, which is, geez, 14th high, 49,707. If you close this daily above that, then that's as good as it gets for me. But even if we're down in here, if we can just close above this high and this high, then we are, for me, not going to be worrying about this wick space that we have created, which, get the mug out of here, we can see, even if we have this wick space, the close is going to be utterly important within the next hour. And I mean, if this that last hour is where it all matters. For me, the noise happens in the first like 10% and the last 10% of excuse me, the noise happens in the middle 80% of the candle. So like the first 10% and the last 10%, that's what I really pay attention to, because you can do all this, this, and that. And then if this thing in the next hour closes down here, that would be just unbelievably bearish. If you had this wick all the way down here and you close below, if you close down here, and that could very much happen. I find it very hard to believe the moves that happen in the last 10% of the candles. In the first 10%, it's really weird how quickly price can move. So this is when I try my best to not let that volatility cause my brain to shut off in the middle of the candle. The noise. So if you're you want to hear the music, right? You don't want to hear the noise. And that noise in the middle is what I try to block out. And whatever happens at this next hour, I think is going to be some music. And I think we'll be live still when this closes. So that'll be excellent. Already seeing some good action off of that high right there. I'm paying very, very close attention to this action. Because also, like, something else that can happen is, say for the next 40 minutes, you move down in here, you move down to 48, and in the last 10 minutes, it moves up here. These are the things that I'm saying that it's like kind of hard to describe the things that will happen the last little bit of a candle. That will be very important. Like if this comes down into here for 40, 50 minutes and then boom, shoots back up and closes, that's, night and day difference than it moving all the way back up here and closing, like moving all the way back up to the high, like moving all the way back up to 50 and then closing down around that area. The way that the price gets there is as important as what the price is. It's got to be more important, if you ask me. So here is I think it was last week that on the Thursday show with the Honest Analyst with Fibbo and Joe, that Fibbo was asking about the hyperwave, and it's a spot where I was just really, the best thing I could kind of say is like, one of Tyler's favorite lines. I didn't even say it at the time, which I actually wish that I did, but that all hyperwaves are bubbles, but not all bubbles are hyperwaves. That that this is entering a bubble period for sure, but is it a hyperwave? That is a huge distinction to make, and it's been very, very hard for me to find hyperwave lines that I feel have any degree of confidence in. And I'm liking this. A bit of a parabolic channel in terms of, you see how the highs here kind of rising in a parabolic fashion along with the lows. So that's what I'm really looking at as the primary market structure at the moment. And that's where I would, start to look for this little support line here, and then maybe some sort of median. Let's maybe do copy paste. Let's do that. Get it along support, resistance, and then kind of try to find some sort of median. Let's see what we got. If you think trend lines are subjective, try drawing parabolas. There we go. That is Oops, I don't think we can do this one dotted. Yeah, we can. All right, so that, that's kind of the market structure that I would be looking at as it stands based on the lack of defined accelerating trend lines and this nice parabolic support, nice parabolic resistance, and then the median that we could fit in there. So with that being said, we will be getting into the daily process here momentarily. Let's see if I can. I guess I'll just stop share, make sure we get everything going right. And I also want to check the chat. Hope everybody's doing well this evening. Can the ascending triangle be a wedge? Absolutely. And I think that rising wedges that break to the upside are even more bullish than anything else in terms of a rising wedge that breaks to the upside, in my experience, has more momentum behind it than just like an ascending triangle. So I think that there's a number of interpretations that can be taken, and I guess we'll have to get back in the screen share for that. Let's see here. So I like this. I still like the ascending pattern because of, we've got the resistance, the try to turn support, and the perfect trap. I mean, that's what you look for a trap, where you get the wick below this recent low, where not anybody, a lot of people who are buying this as an ascending triangle breakout would be using this low as a stop. So when you take that out with a wick and then immediately close back above, back above here and move from there, that's looking like a good trap. And then again here, we're looking like we're turning it into support. So I'm preferring that interpretation myself. But for sure, you could be looking at it as a wedge. And I've talked about this a lot in terms of if you have a rising wedge that breaks to the upside, it's generally followed by a big move. Like if you have this wedge that breaks to the downside, all it really does is target this low in a bull market, in a bull trend. Whereas if you have a wedge that breaks to the upside, then what you have is all-time high territory with not any built-up resistance. There's nobody that's bought here, so there's not that built-up resistance, and you've got the momentum of the bull trend behind it, which is why I tend to look at a higher target than even that measured move. So definitely a good question, and from here, a lot of it's going to be about just what happens from here. And again, if you are buying the breakouts, however you're drawing it, these areas are going to be common stops, and maybe it comes down and wipes those out, and the question is what happens from there. All right. Okie dokie. I think that's going to be enough looking at the comments, and we will go ahead and pull up the daily process here. Just take a moment. I should have this ready before, of course, but I was running a little late, running on Colorado time. Up around here, we move a little bit slower, and you know what? We still do a pretty damn good job. So, what are you gonna do? Alphanalysis process. There we go. And makes me think to go ahead and take a quick look at the new form that was just released as of a couple days ago, and already getting some good activity and some good comments. So really appreciate that. So we'll go ahead and dive into the daily live stream comments. A lot of people looking forward to it and wishing me luck. I appreciate it. I wanted to give a shout out to Unmanifest. Really appreciated the words that he had to say. The amount of value you are adding for so many of us is well beyond my abilities to convey or repay. That means a lot. I really do appreciate that. At the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is just add some value, and hearing that, and then also getting tips and support from my man Kimosabi, that really goes a long way. And just looking at the forums really brings me back to the old days. I freaking love it, and I really hope that this comes into something that I think that it can be, just in terms of Twitter's a great place to hang out and everything, but the how this works, I just think it's so much better. The way that you gain clout is by the what I remember is like the earlier join dates. Like if you joined early on, 2+2 was the poker forum that inspired this, and I joined there around, like, I don't know, 2008. And if you saw an account from 2002 post, it didn't matter how many followers he had. It didn't matter nothing. It was just like, holy shit, this guy's been around since 2002. I'm gonna listen to what this guy has to say. So like the way that you kind of build clout on a forum is just by being around for a while, and then thanking and being thanked. It's just, I think, a really conducive way to contribute and share and learn. And then you can also see how we have the stream from yesterday is right here. And then you have the opportunity to add comments, feedback, ask questions, and I can provide answers. And then you have the next stream right there. Ooh, and we've already got some new comments. So right after that, I'll have to come back and get to that. But as you see, it kind of comes down, I think, in a very just a chronological way that makes it maybe, like say I'm bearish on Tuesday, and then by Friday I'm bullish. You can come back and look at the stream and see the questions and see the thinking, and I think that will be a good way to put this together. All right, I've got this here. Gonna have to move this guy a little bit here. That's the one I lost. Okie dokie. And what do I have planned today? A very fun afternoon here. As soon as I'm finished with the stream, I am off to my one of my very good friends' houses to help him transfer some Bitcoin into his cold storage. And I'll tell you what, it is one thing to have somebody call you back and tell you, yeah, I'm ready to buy some of this funny money that you've been talking about. It's a whole nother to have them call you back and be like, hey, so about that cold storage, huh? That's pretty cool to be able to help with both. And once you get that second call, that's when you know that somebody is really starting to understand it. let's see here. There's one other thing I wanted to highlight. Trash, nice name. It says, great stream, bro. Let's see how long you'll be able to sustain the routine. And how long can one sustain the routine? That is the question. We are going to see. So at least 2 days. At least 2. I do have actually the code for, hopefully, this is my man, this is my programmer. Sorry if you guys are getting bored with me jabbering along here, but I find myself pretty goddamn entertaining. You don't mess with the OM, because he figures shit out. Unboxing thing here. Good Limp Bizkit song. We're rolling. Where is the goddamn code? There we go. Okie dokie. We walked through this yesterday, so we can just build it again on the chart. We have the simple moving average, 2 length, source high, and the simple moving average, 2 length, source low, along with the least square mean, 9, high, low, 2. That will be the code's moving average. Okie dokie. So support is 46,287. And resistance is going to be between the 9 least square mean and the 2 high, so 48,973 to 49,850. And stop on that's going to be based on the 1 hour trader mode. Let's see here. Halfway between the buoy and the bottom of the ocean. 41.3. Beach 46. We're going all 6s. Sky 350. Flat. Buoy critical level for the short-term trend 42,570. In the world 40,000. Some critical levels here 40 to 42,570. Let's go ahead and see my most recent post in the forums. First new thread started by somebody other than myself, Peter G, talking about Bitcoin all-time high. That's a sweet thread to have started. And here's my response. As long as we're above 42, my target is 59.5 due to the bull flag / parabola, as well as these critical levels on the 1 hour emasar. You see 42.5. If we fall below, if we get 42, that gives the short-term trend for me. And that's where I start to expect that to give. And that's where I abandon the target that I have. And it's very important to know when and where to abandon the targets that you have, as well as, you know, understanding when and where to kind of hold on and hold through. And if you're going to do a lot of the same stuff that other people do in terms of having the stop right here. You know, you might get stopped out at a very bad time, which this happens to me for sure. But the important thing is that I will still have the critical levels where the target is negated, but it's not necessarily going to be based on the target that the based on the pattern that the target comes from. So we have a bull flag with a target that comes from confirmation, and I'm going to hold on to that target as long as my trend is intact. So that's what I'm trying to say there. Four-hour beach. So this is where you kind of find that difficult spot. Just like I was kind of talking about, the 1 hour, the short-term trend gets negated if we give this level, but what happens then? Well, you're right at a higher time frame level of support, and that can be a very tricky thing to deal with. If you're just going to say, no, I'm negating my stop because there's this higher time frame support, that's like a cascading domino effect to where you find yourself very well underwater at a time that's way too late to try to figure it out. And that is why I think it's so important to find the time frame that works best with the asset that you're trading. For me, the daily chart is too slow in Bitcoin. I've talked about this, it's been a while, but if you're going to look at like the 50 and 200 day moving averages in Bitcoin, let's just go ahead and do it. Okie dokie. Finance ain't gonna feed the bulldog, as my dad liked to say. So here we are with the 50 and 200 day moving averages back in, what's this, 2019? I'm not gonna. I want to look back and see how long it took the 50 and 200 day moving averages to cross after the 2017 top. And here we go. Notice how you didn't get a 50 and 200 day moving average crossover right here. The beach is going to be slightly above the 200, kind of front running the 200. And then the green is the 50. And it didn't cross until right here. Yeah, for sure, the buoy held as good support and whatnot. But if you're using this as your way to determine the trend, you're not identifying a bear trend until the price is at 7,000 after getting to 20. So for me, that's too late. And having a time frame that works as a function of the volatility of the underlying market is something that I think is going to be critical, because you got to find that sweet spot. You can't have something that chops too much so that you get a really good price at the top, but you're getting chopped out all around the way to get that. You kind of have to find a sweet spot. And that's where the 4 hour is going to be something that is going to be my main thing to determine the longer term trend, as it's able to maintain the bullish posture throughout these big moves, and then also find some good exits after them, never getting the tops or the bottoms, but getting some good prices somewhere there in between. Ready? So as I'm saying that, the moral of the story here is that I've got two options. I can have my stop set closer to the buoy such that it gets triggered enough before my buy at 40,000, or I can remove a buy order remove the buy here and cancel the stop here so that I can just basically wait for this. So the option is to wait for the higher time frame signal, or kind of take the lower time frame with the tighter stop loss option, such that I'm not, having a stop loss set at 40,000 and a buy set at 40,000, because that really wouldn't make any sense. All right. And we've got the sky at about 52.1. And it's turned up. $35.4. And Underworld at 33.250. So what my decision is going to be based on here is going to be the risk slider. We went into this yesterday in terms of using some things to identify, is this a risk on environment or a risk off environment, which is something you'll hear more in traditional finance, where it's, there's times to really, take on a lot of risk, and there's times to really try to protect yourself from the risky environment. And if we're in a really risky situation, I'm just going to be looking to target higher time frame stuff, and that's basically already what I'm pretty darn confident is going to happen today, as I've been keeping my eye on the things. The funding rate and futures premium has been a concern, but I'm still staying long. Okie dokie. Interesting. I like seeing how we have this 2-week low support lining up with this prior resistance. That's definitely a spot I would want to target. 42,000. Do a little 52. And 32. Stop is 2 weeks behind. This current week 1, 2. That low. Loki risk slider. All in. I'm going to be releasing this for those that have emasar soon. Got a handful of things stacked up, but we'll be making it happen. Okay, let's go ahead and check out the FOMO finder. Okey-dokey. It's telling us to pay attention. Canary in the coal mine, as Tyler Jenks would say. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we need to pay attention to. All right, 0.1% in 5 hours. 53,000 for the June contract, minus 49.2 for spot. 7.72% premium. Okie dokie. So risk is at minimum. Going to check current position. I think we didn't get filled after yesterday's trim, seeing the lack of that test. I'm going to assume that we missed it. Let's take a look. Yep, sure enough. Okay, so 43.42% long. Stops. Let's see here. Gotta figure out the stocks. Daily is 41.3. Which is 40. We like to buy at 42. So I want my stop below 40. That means it's gotta be 34. Confirmation there. Okay. I like having my stops layered using the 1 hour and 4 hour emasar, such that the stop is below the buoy on the 1 hour and the 4 hour. But when they get too close, that's when you, I just don't want to be stopped out on the 4 hour beach. That just ain't gonna feed the bulldog. Okay. So, testing my orders now, making sure I'm not totally doxing myself. Shout out to everybody that has commented that I haven't seen. I've been, I guess, just a little bit preoccupied. Man, did we miss that? The low was 47,040. 47,040. Order was 46,777. So just missed that. So I'm going to cancel that. That was our order. It didn't feed the bulldog. I guess I didn't like how much I like saying this. So that's out of there. And we had 45,106. I didn't get anywhere close. So let's get them adjusted down to 42. Sometimes you adjust them up, sometimes you adjust them down. Tis the trick. 42. Just going 42 clean. Yep, I get. I'm going to go 42 and 40. Yep. I'm going to scale up to the exposure just a little bit because it's a better price closer to the stop. Okey-dokey. right. And setting that stop at 34. I go, so here's a trick that if it stops working, then this whole setup might be a problem, but slippage is a problem. So what I do is say that my stop loss is supposed to be set at 34. Yeah. What I'm going to do is set it at like $34,004, because what I expect is that there's a lot of orders set to buy at the even number. And if my stop loss gets triggered, a few dollars above, and then I can kind of catch my stop market falling into an even number, that is something that I find to help me avoid some slippage. And that's certainly something I want to do. So $34,004 is what it's going to be at. Increase the quantity. Okay, and now I got to check the risk. We've got average entry. We've got no pen. Huh. This is the kind of stuff that gets to me. Things need to be where they should be. All right, this is why backups things aren't where they should be. Okay, average entry 41. Stop 34. That is 7,000 divided by 7,000 divided by 41. 17% is the risk. So I want to be risking the minimum. 2%. What's going on? Here's the pen. Target risk 2%. So that means I can enter 11.76. So we'll call it 12% of the account, because if I enter 12% of the account and I get stopped out after a 17% move against, then I will end up losing 2%. Is that right? Why does that not seem right? God damn it, it's so hard to do this stuff when somebody's looking over your shoulder, right? Wait a second. I need to rethink this. Apologies. That's why we need to double check the massives. Yep, I did it wrong. We have to do 0.17 divided by 2. 0.17 divided by 2, that gives us 8.5%. So if we enter 8.5% of the account and get stopped out at a 17% stop loss, what's 17% of 8.5? I do 10% of 8.5 is 0.8 times 2. You know, that's checking out mentally, at least I hope. I'll probably have to come back afterwards and double check because sometimes even the easiest math gets a little bit confusing. Okie dokie. So 8% of the account. All right. That is looking good. All right. Price target. We started the show with that. That is 59.5. Entries 42 and 40. Yeah. 42 and 40. Stop is 34. Trim. I got to get filled on the entry before I trim again, as I had just gotten filled on the trim and not re-entered. So if I do get re-entered, then that will be the target for the trim. All right. 2 days down. And are we at an hour yet? Where is that? Still getting used to streaming from the laptop setup, but I think that the quality is going to be a little bit better until I can figure anything else out, or at least completely abandon the cult that I joined a long time ago. And anybody else that's still in the Mac cult, best of luck to you. My thoughts are with you. It's a very tough journey to get out of that cult, I'll tell you what. All righty. I think we're in a really good spot. Outside of the funding rates and the futures premium, I'm really liking how prior support is turning into prior resistance is turning into support, and it's continuing to dance off of 48,000 after having that nice little trap action where it went below the low and then closed above. You know, the price action is looking good, and that's really at the end of the day all that matters. What is the price doing? Is it turning resistance into support, or is it turning support into resistance, or is it doing nothing at all? Right now we're turning prior resistance into support, no matter how hard it may seem to believe, even with the recent funding rates. So I am very much targeting 59.5 as long as we are able to maintain above, I said 42, but really that's changed quite a bit with today's analysis. So I could definitely see a wick below that 42 area. That is going to be a situation where I'd actually get filled on a buy now that I realize it. Buys are set at 40 and 42. So that's where the orders are for now. And a big, I think something that's really, really important is to establish a base position, and something I talk about in the risk management for investors and for traders. Come on over and check it out. Let's see here. Go to alphanalysis.io and then the forums. And here in the investors tool belt, you'll see a PowerPoint presentation that goes into depth about how important it is to invest before you start trying to trade. And when you're in a spot where you're, heavily invested in a market and your trading account is maybe not quite as heavily invested as you would like it to be, or you just have these orders that aren't getting filled, it's for me just damn near impossible to just keep dealing with that day after day if I don't have some sort of exposure in the right direction, which is often a lot easier said than done, and why you need to develop or start to work with some strategy that you can really trust in more than anything else. And in my opinion, it's all about trends and it's all about math. If you have something that is based on math that is going to be following trends, then it's probably going to give you a leg up. And then if you're able to use that to develop a base exposure to the underlying trend, and that can give you an opportunity to be more and more aggressive with the orders that you set. Like, we all know about these wicks that happen, and who's on the right side of them? I mean, it's, like everybody talks about being on the wrong side of them. And in order to be on the right side of them, I think you have to just always have orders kind of set in that vicinity and just be okay with not having them filled. And then you have to be okay with the times where they do get filled and it just dumps straight through. So that is, a lot of what I talked about in the emasar webinar and whatnot is just, trying to identify these areas where people are getting stopped out or where they have their stop losses set, and paying very, very close attention to these inflection points where if you get sharp reactions from that area where you wick off of it and continue moving, versus when you don't, and that liquidity just keeps moving in the other direction, that can be a way that a lot of people want to try to focus on trading, in terms of of course we want to buy up everybody's bad stop losses, like that. It's very easy to say, but at the end of the day, how is it done? How do people accomplish this? And often it's not me. I'm not at all trying to say that the approach that I'm using is going to be the way to go about it. I'm just saying this is the way that I do think about it, and this is how emasar was developed, to try to identify the areas where the stop losses occur, and then to therefore be able to identify some tight time and price-based stop losses from that, to where if you don't react accordingly, it should become pretty evident in a short amount of time, even without price moving too far. Or if price does move too far, then that could help to identify that as well. So hopefully some of that makes sense. And my main goal is to help people try to just kind of start thinking for themselves. There is no way to benefit from the markets more than challenging yourself to think about how you can be your best at what you're doing. If you're trying to invest and or trade, then you need to figure out what works best for you, and what works best for somebody else definitely ain't going to be what works best for you. But maybe it works, maybe it kind of works here and there a little bit. And maybe that's great, but I really think that what everybody should be doing is challenging themselves to think about where do things go wrong, and how is that something that you just need to tough out, or is that something that can be improved upon with something as objective as math? So one last look at the chat, and then that will be a day. I'm not sure if this is a little bit behind, but what are you going to do? All right. Let's see here. Talking about risking 2% of bankroll. I would suggest to check out risk management for traders, where I get in depth about all of that. And yeah, 2% is on the actually the more conservative end of the spectrum. But if you come down to the links here in the description, you will find risk management for traders. And there I go in depth about why risking 2% of the bankroll really is not going to be a good idea for the most part and for the large majority of people. So thank you all for tuning in, and apologies if I missed some comments. It's hard to do both, but I am going to be trying my best to get better here and there. So stay tuned for more daily live streams from Alpha Analysis, and about this time is where I'm going to be shooting for it. 3 to 4 o'clock Eastern time is going to be the target, and sometimes it'll be a little off, and it may take a little bit to get into that groove. So make sure that you click subscribe and click the bell to get the notification for when I do go live, because I'll set it up, generally at least an hour ahead of time and whatnot. So appreciate everybody for clicking the thumbs up and for commenting and subscribing and telling everybody telling everybody who you think could find some value in this stream, that they should come on over and check it out themselves. So until tomorrow, we will hope that Bitcoin smashes through 50,000, and catch up with you guys then.